Trapped and cornered, the Jawas braced for the end as the Rancor thundered forward. With a defiant roar, Gregory the Gamorrean surged ahead, his vibro lance striking true. The beast bellowed one last time before silence fell. As the dust settled, the Jawas stood, saved. Gregory lay still, their unlikely hero fallen. Or something like that. Either way, I think we need to build Gregory the Gamorrean a monument for the pit. What's up, you awesome geeks? I'm Brian, this is the Smuggler's Room, and today I wanted to combine the power of resin 3D printing with good old-fashioned scratch building. Thankfully, we're lucky enough to be sponsored with this episode by Elegoo, who has been kind enough to provide us with their Elegoo Saturn 4 resin printer. Resin printing has really been a game changer the last few years, especially when it comes to high quality and highly detailed prints that you can achieve. And Elegoo Saturn 4 does not disappoint. With our pit project, everything's on the table. Whether it's scratch building, styrene, foam, or in this case, 3D printing, specifically resin, and what that can offer to take our build to the next level. The Saturn 4 machine was effortless to set up and has truly made a rather intimidating process easy to get going. When I'm looking at a tool like the Saturn 4, my primary requirements revolve around the ease of use and how successful that tool will be for me. The Saturn 4 has several key aspects that make this fit into my requirements, such as the auto leveling, sensors that detect resin shortages or level failure, and a 12K LCD that give me excellent detail. I'm a fan of the quick release build plate, dual pour spouts, and surprisingly the flip cover design I find much better than the printers where you have to take the cover completely off of the printer. All that said, the proof is in the pudding, or in this case, in the resin. We've been printing non-stop on this machine and I've become obsessed with the results I'm getting from the Saturn 4. So if you're looking for an awesome resin printer to get you into the hobby or improve the quality of the prints, you can follow the links in the description below and get one for yourself. A big thank you to Elegoo for sponsoring today's video, and now let's get back into Gregory the Gamorrean and his monument. At its core, today's project is a pretty straightforward build. I want to take an awesome 3D print that I purchased from Star Wars 3D models on CG Trader, I'll link that in the description below for you, and combine that with XPS foam and plaster to create a monument. I thought this would be a pretty funny juxtaposition to other monuments you see in the Star Wars universe, like Jedi temples and things like that. Just another entertaining aspect to our pit build that adds a bit of world building to it. I have no idea where this will end up in the pit project as a whole, but I'm sure we can find just the perfect place for Jawas to make a pilgrimage to honor the fallen Gamorrean that saved their kin. Most of the initial process is just foam cutting enough so that the resin print will set back inside the foam. This isn't going to be perfect. All we want to do is make sure that we have some depth. We're going to be using plaster rocks and Sculptamold to blend into the print. We also are going to want to add some texture to the foam using both an actual rock for the large texture, as well as a rolled up piece of tinfoil for the smaller, more detailed texture. Then we'll add some damage to the foam and give the entire piece a bit more character. Okay, so we've got some stones in place. We're waiting for some more, but I'm going to take some Sculptamold and I'm going to fill in some of these gaps and areas and try to make this more cohesive. mistake. I started spraying this before I covered it in Mod Podge to seal the foam. Thankfully, I didn't get too much on here, so it didn't eat the foam up too badly, but I need to hit it with a little bit of Mod Podge first just to seal in the areas that aren't covered in the plaster. And I'm going to mix a little bit of tile grout in with it just so I get a little bit of texture on it. One thing I've been doing with the pit build is keeping a consistent color palette for the rock and stone. This is a combination of blue and burnt umber ink through the airbrush. There are obviously other colors used, such as washes and dry brushing to create the stone, but this has been the foundation of the color palette so that things are somewhat consistent and they look like they've all come from the same location. All right, the first pass looks pretty good. We've got a lot of decent highlights with a lighter gray, but we've got two other colors here that I'm going with. So we've used this kind of in this game, a darker gray. So now we'll start to use these other two more strategically and see what we can make pop out of that. Here, so you can see how that it just starts to really give it definition, the dry brushing. Okay, so we've got our stone. It's all the way done with the exception of adding some greenery. And I'm going to start by taking some of this twine and then splitting it apart in a way that creates kind of some vines. All right. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take the vines and we're going to lay this down into the rock structure, glue that in place, and then I'm going to take some greenery and add to that. So we got some vines in place. Next thing I want to do is I want to tint them a little bit because obviously I don't want that color on everything. So we're going to tint those real quick with a little bit of oil wash. Okay, we're going to use a little bit of some moss and break this apart. And then we're going to use a little PVA glue. PVA will dry clear, so we won't see the white. I'm just cleaning up some of the spill. For me, this kind of build is just a bit of fun storytelling. The pit project for us is more than just a model build for toys, it's a fun experiment in world building, creating a story within a story and using all the various maker methods and tools to get this done. So I really hope you're enjoying this kind of project from us, because we have so many ideas to slowly add to this massive display case project. I want to give a big thank you to Elegoo for sponsoring this build, and a massive thank you to our Patreon community, the Smugglers Guild, for making all of this possible. If you enjoyed this build and we've earned your like or a subscription, it would mean the world to us. And if you want to support more projects, consider hitting that thanks button below or joining our Patreon community. That's it for this one, and we'll see you the next time we build something out of nothing.